Very good morning to everyone. I have no financial disclosure. As we all know, the incidence of any intraocular procedure is on the rise, so as well as the incidence of endophthalmitis is also on the rise, and it can be due to various etiologies. The main key points here is when we have a patient with endophthalmitis, before even that, we should always emphasize for prevention, early recognition is the key, and active therapeutics should be involved very judiciously. We should not waste time. Certain post-operative endophthalmitis risk factor which can be avoided, like it have patient's factor, if the patient has any local disease should be treated, intraoperative surgical factors, and as well as surgeon's factors. I'm not going to details because of paucity of time. If you look at the clinical presentation, we can either have an acute presentation or acute on chronic or a chronic presentation. And then the treatment involves immediate initiation of intravitreal broad spectrum antibiotics without wasting any time. You can do it in the OPD. I'll show you how to do it with or without requirement of a vitreous stab biopsy, or if the patient is not responding to either an immediate plan of pars plana vitrectomy. The choice of antibiotics will be dealt in detail. How to go about the management? First of all, a detailed clinical examination is a must. We should also emphasize on the necessary investigations as and when required, like ultrasonography. It's very crucial in making the diagnosis and proceeding further. All these tests and the procedures have to be backed by a good microbiological examination of the specimen, and treatment can be medical or surgical. The role of PCR cannot be emphasized less in today's scenario. Every sample intraocular fluid taken from the eye should be sent for microbiological evaluation, which also includes PCR, which can give us a lot of insight into the organisms which we are dealing with. However, when we go for a medical management algorithm, first we start with antibiotics. The common choice is vancomycin and ceftazidime. If we see for the response within a day, if the patient is not responding, then you can go for a repeat injection. If it is still worsening, then we can plan for vitrectomy straight away. In conjunction with alongside, you can have systemic antibiotics, start with local therapy, corticosteroids as well as cycloplegics to give rest to the eye. Intravitreal antibiotics can be used. For gram-positive, we can go for vancomycin, which is a treatment of choice. For gram-negative, we can choose for ceftazidime, and for fungus, we have various antifungals available now, like amphotericin B and voriconazole. Couple of points about EVS. Why I am putting it here is like the treatment has been decided pre-EVS era and post-EVS era. So EVS has used various antibiotics which can be which are still used in today's scenario. The results of EVS have shown us that intravitreal antibiotics confer no visual benefit, and 3-port PVV is better or equivalent with vitreous stab biopsy in eyes with presenting vision, which is relatively better than light perception. However, when the patient's vision dropped down further, a vitrectomy is required. However, we see a current scenario how post-EVS era has changed. We do still do patients with treatment based on EVS protocol supported vitrectomies, but there is also alternative interpretation of the EVS data which was not done previously, and non-previous protocol vitrectomies, and complications and sequelae of endophthalmitis should be managed adequately, which we will not in the EVS era. We have common organisms, however, we should not be just limited, think that all endophthalmitis present with common organisms. That's what the treatment of pathogens which are not, treatment of eyes which are not responding to any kind of treatment, and the treatment response is slow, we should always think that we are dealing with something unusual. Aggressive treatment is required in some of the scenarios where we have post-PK or post-bleb associated endophthalmitis. And complications, as I told you, we have changed the other indications of vitrectomy. We have to be managed subsequently, like premacular gliosis on the surface, cystoid macular edema, late retinal detachments, non-clearing vitreous opacification, and most ominously a hypotony. We have a couple of techniques how we do an aqueous stab and a vitreous stab. I'll just show you the set which have been commonly used. This can be done in OPD as soon as you see the patient. We have a surgical tray here laid down in the OPD chamber. The couple of gauze pieces are there to clean the eye as well as to patch the eye. Antibiotic solutions are here. We can take a syringe to mix the antibiotic solutions appropriately as and when required. Povidone iodine has to be installed with proparacaine, and this procedure can be done either with a slit lamp examination or an indirect ophthalmoscopy examination. We can take sample from the anterior chamber itself and send it for microbiological evaluation as soon as possible. Smear to be done for grams, KOH, GIMS and chalcophore, and then culture for anaerobic, and fungus. Microbiological test, the sensitivity can be based on the sample taken from the eye. The AC tab has the least sensitivity as compared to vitreous tab. However, if you have in doubt, you can take samples from corneal clipping, infected sutures, or even sometimes IOL can be taken out while doing vitrectomies. Antibiotics, as I told you, have to be instituted in proper concentrations. We already are aware of all this. Sometimes subconjunct antibiotics are also required along with topical, and as well as systemic steroids are needed in bacterial endophthalmitis. When we look for vitrectomy, the role of vitrectomy is to get a vitreous sample, debulk the vitreous, clear the infection rapidly, rapid restoration of media clarity, and good penetration of antibiotics. We can do standard 3-4 vitrectomy. However, in the era of 23 and 25 gauge vitrectomy, the vitrectomy has become very easy. Collection of fluid is possible rapidly, and debulking is required, can also be done to the great extent. Posterior vitreous detachment induction can be done in cases wherever we can have a good visualization and not much traction is present on the macula. And so that the intravitreal antibiotic penetration is much better. However, in certain scenarios like P. acne endophthalmitis, we require a posterior capsulectomy and also IOL removal or IOL exchange at a later date. And as I told you, BRAF associated infections require early vitrectomy, and we need to differentiate it from babetes. Fungal endophthalmitis requires very aggressive approach, but most often or not, the results are quite disappointing in spite of instituting the treatment early. I'll show you a couple of videos. We can have some discussion after that. So the first video shows how to clear the media in a patient. Here we have a fibrin membrane which is present into the anterior chamber, occluding the view of the posterior segment. So we take a 26 or a 30 gauge bent needle like a cystitome, remove the membrane, and sometimes the membrane cannot be removed with the help of a needle, so we need to open the section and take out the membrane with the help of a forceps. This is the way where we remove the IOL without causing traction on the surrounding surface or surrounding areas, and then we can proceed with vitrectomy. As we have seen here, the view was not very great to start with. Still the view is not very great, but it is much better than before. And once we clear this anterior segment properly, we can go to the posterior segment and proceed with vitrectomy and do as much of vitrectomy as possible. Always check in the infusion cannula. This is a 6 mm infusion cannula before inserting into the vitreous cavity. Once the cannula is there in place, we can start vitrectomy and for first to take the sample. At this point of time, we may or may not start the infusion fluid. Cut adequately so that you can get a good sample here. The assistant has attached this syringe to the suction tubing, and once a good amount of sample is available, then you can proceed with vitrectomy as required. Send this sample immediately for microbiological evaluation. Don't wait for vitrectomy to get over, and by the time, most of the time when we finish the case, we already have a result of gram stents and KOH mount with us, and so that appropriate antibiotics can be instituted. Another video, how to explant an IOL. First we make a good paracentesis. In this case the eye was hypertonous, so the infusion cannula was placed before, but most often or not the placement of infusion cannula is not required. You can get away with that. Good amount of clearage from the anterior as well as the posterior aspect is required. Dial the IOL as what I am doing here into the anterior chamber first, and then only try to take it out. Once the IOL is there under good viscoelastic cover, always suture this wound and then proceed with vitrectomy further. Challenging scenarios where we commonly face nowadays is this is a post-RKI done long back, followed by a posterior chamber intraocular lens implantation, and the patient develop a late onset endophthalmitis. As you can see here, dense fibrin membrane which is covering the anterior chamber. The eye was hypotenuse, so I injected air into the anterior chamber first as well as into the vitreous cavity. Make a scleral tunnel because the cornea here is already compromised, so these decisions have to be taken there. Always free this irido lenticular adhesions first, and then once the IOL is free, this may have to be repeated at from 2-3 sections, as we may not be able to separate the adhesions from just a main port entry. So once you free these adhesions, make the IOL mobile under good viscoelastic cover, then dial the IOL into the anterior chamber and then take it out. Suture this wound, though it is a scleral tunnel incision, don't take a chance, otherwise this also sometimes can leak and cause a non-treatment response. So we have freed the lens here quite nicely in the inferior quadrant here. Also take out the membrane. Go from the other side to make the superior half mobile. And once we have taken out the IOL, proceed with vitrectomy. And then here in this case I am doing a 20 gauge vitrectomy. This last video to highlight how the 23 gauge has changed the way we used to manage this patient. This is a patient we managed with 23 gauge vitrectomy. First clearance of the anterior chamber by means of some saline put here. The IOLs is still in place, but always suture the anterior chamber wound, no matter however small it is. Proceed with 23 gauge sclerotomy entries. Debulk the anterior vitreous just behind the IOL and the posterior capsule. If required, you can also do a posterior capsulectomy. Do a slow vitrectomy with probably less suction also and high cut rate. As you can see here, the posterior pole is very nicely seen. Once we start clearing this is the disc here, once we start clearing the posterior pole, the debulking of vitreous till the extent possible should be continued and never be stopped. So I am debulking the vitreous from the posterior surface. All the exudates are there along the posterior retina. Do a gentle maneuvers. I have got the PVD here now. Once you get the PVD, then the surgery becomes very easy, and also the debulking is possible to the maximum extent. Go to the periphery, inspect the macula and the retina again. As you can see here, nicely the posterior pole is cleared up with a good view of macula as well as the disc. So you know this patient will do fairly well, and come again at the end of the conclusion to the anterior part of the vitreous. Check for the leaks. If required, you can also put a salt transconjunctival stitch for this sclerotomy sites and institute antibiotics as required. So to conclude, post-operative management requires regular monitoring of these patients. Look for any early signs of deterioration. Continue all topical, systemic, antifungals, antibiotics, steroids, analgesic as and when required, and take out messages. Early and prompt recognition and active early management remains the key in successful management of endophthalmitis. Thank you very much for a patient hearing.